This video is about the creation of a complete natural ecosystem right outside the school door, whether you are an elementary, secondary, or post-secondary institution. If you're a school administrator, teacher, parent, or student, and even a part of an organization that works on education and cares for schools, you want to tune into this mini documentary. This film features how a remarkable laboratory school, grades pre-kindergarten to 6, co-created a spectacular multi-sensory natural play and ecological restoration playground. I've dubbed this a nature sense ground. How do you feel about the courtyard?
It's amazing. It's just a magical place that can bring you to like a forest. Yeah.
Wow.
And it's in the middle of a city, so
It's like a tiny bit of it's a tiny bit of forest that's just cut out and put in the middle.
yeah.
Wow.
It's like I don't hear any sirens, any ambulances going.
Do you ever wish you could look out the window and open your door at school and see a teeming natural ecosystem with inviting trails, a trickling waterfall, fish in a pond, and all sorts of birds singing? Well, allow me to introduce myself. My name's Ben Porchuk, and I'm a wildlife biologist and ecologist, and I'm a forest therapy leader. For over 30 years, I've completed many conservation contracts for various groups like World Wildlife Fund, Nature Conservancy Canada, Royal Botanical Gardens, and many others. About 10 years ago, I became a specialist using native plants for gardening to help recover urban ecology. All around me here, I have about 250 species of native plants in my own front, back, and side gardens. I'm simply passionate about helping bring back wildlife to urban centers, and I'm passionate about education as well. I'm so glad you joined me on this journey. Please follow along this video for about 30 minutes. In 2019, I was hired to create a 150-foot indoor forest therapy trail. I used potted and recently cut native trees, shrubs, grasses, and wildflowers in the middle of a large indoor conference center. This indoor pop-up forest therapy trail included benches for sitting, small off-trail areas to have tea, and signs that help give people cues to connect a little more deeply with the natural features before them. Someone recorded me live as I was interpreting the indoor creation. And not long after, an ambitious teacher from the Jackman Institute of Child Studies in Toronto, Canada, a laboratory school, contacted me asking if I could create something similar in a small 4,500 square foot outdoor abandoned courtyard at their school. My first response was a definite no. While I've created a few beautiful, scenic, residential native plant and water feature installations in the past, it was clear in my mind that the ecosystem work I prefer to put my energy into is bringing back prairies, forests, and wetlands to large areas on marginal farmlands or abandoned pastures. But this teacher persisted. Hello?
Hi, is this Ben Porchuk?
Oh, hi, Krista. Yeah, I'm doing great. How are you?
Could you please come to our school?
My schedule is really quite full for a while, and
Yeah, I understand, but can you come to our school? We really need you to come.
I'd love to, and yet
So it would be great if you could get here and help us out.
I'd love to, and it sounds amazing.
We need your help.
Yeah, I'll really do my best.
Come to the school.
Yeah.
I don't know that there's anyone else who can do what we need you to do in this space.
Well, that's so flattering, and I'll really try. Then one day when I was in Toronto, she insisted I stop off and see the school in person. I was blown away by this visit. There was such a positive vibration in the school, which was filled with happy teachers, wonderful administrators, and vibrant children who experienced learning in so many accurate, innovative, and joyful ways. And I hadn't even seen the courtyard yet. Once I did, it was really clear that melding the passionate vision of this teacher and the administrators with my experience could bring diverse nature back to this remarkable school setting located right in the middle of the theater district in the largest city in Canada. While providing the school with a unique, right outside the door creation. I realized that all of the benefits that we do in large-scale nature rebuilding projects can be multiplied by doing them in small areas with passionate people involved, including impressionable young people. These efforts bring habitat to urban centers where it's hard for people to travel to parks to find peaceful restoration in nature. All of a sudden, this tiny, insignificant habitat restoration project grew so much meaning to me. One day after co-creating an intricate design including prairie, forest, wetland, and several innovative features for wildlife, as well as areas for spontaneous play and storytelling, the principal introduced me to a visiting group as the artist in residence. I laughed out loud, and then of course started to reflect upon what he had said. And he was actually pretty accurate, even if it's just in the sense of everybody's an artist kind of thing. But upon reflection, I see that my artistry was pulling together a mosaic of experiences of 30 years as a cutting-edge ecologist, a teacher at all levels, and an expert in bringing wildlife back to small urban spaces. My canvas, if you will, was a small degraded space in the courtyard, with colors added by the vibrant student body and the keen faculty in my mind's eye, bringing life back to this space once again. Having students participate in several elements of the building also added intangible life-creating aspects that are really difficult to describe with words. In this instance, a grade 4-5 split is helping me plant a cherry birch tree. I had just told them how plants can often pick up on our intentions, and so it'd be a great idea to become silent while we all thought good thoughts of this tree as we planted it. After the silence, magically the students spontaneously started to tone in this high pitch. Have a listen as this all played out. Okay, thanks for that.
Thoughts to our trees, we put her in.
Sounds like angels. Is there angels singing here?
Oh my
There's a
God.
little hole right there.
I bet you this tree is going to thrive. Oh my gosh.
On that note, grade 4s and 5s, can we
nice
please
joke, Ben.
turn this way? On that note, turn this way, and can we have a big thank you to Ben Porchuk? So nice to have you here today.
Am I able to say you're my favorite 4-5 class
Oh.
I've ever worked with?
Yes.
Even if you're the only one I've ever worked with? And with that, the Nature Sense ground at the JICS Lab School pretty much created itself through me. and the many helpers who would stop by on occasion. So with the Nature Sense ground more or less built, what happened? According to the teachers and in my own observation, the students experienced wonder right outside the school door. They engaged in active, free play, including a lot of discovery and exploration of wild plants, animals, and fungi. Making mud pies and playing in the sandbox, students interacted directly with the native soils and sands, which, as research from Finland shows, boosted their immunity. The students also explored their senses, touching, smelling, listening, hearing, even tasting some berries with their teachers. All of these activities lead to experiencing less stress, increased proprioception, better focus, and increased levels of confidence. When we take it slowly, the many elements of nature induce a relaxed parasympathetic state, which promotes health, focus, and confidence. All of these set the table for increased ability to learn. The nature-connected classroom, as some say. It improves focus, improves attention retention, and thus boosts confidence, which is often a huge first step in opening the gates of academic learning, especially biology, math, and social interactions through spontaneous outdoor experiences. Now you might wonder and think that the school had challenges with liability, given the uneven ground, the presence of a pond and a waterfall within reach, in addition to piles of rocks and uneven wooden logs for seating. But that's not the case. The smallness of the site afforded adequate and not yet suffocating supervision. It also seems that the serenity of the naturalness all around them, then the constant message of sharing the land with plants and animals, fostered manageable, risky play, self-discovery, and personal reflection. Risky play. In fact, research from forest schools shows that so-called risky outdoor play has no more accidents than playgrounds laden with asphalt and concrete. It was pretty evident that this project could be applied virtually to any schoolyard anywhere. And it could also be applied to a 5,000 square foot site at an office or a similar tiny chunk of public land. Likewise, the restorative benefits to teachers and administrators taking time in the Nature Sense ground at lunch or during breaks are better focus, lower blood pressure, greater feelings of relaxation, all contributing to happier, more productive humans, which often means better teachers. The ability to restore and heal in very small amounts of time on an ongoing basis is far better than any planned team building exercise. If it was desired, forest therapy walks by outside guides could also be planned right on site, reducing the need for excursions on a bus and often taking at least a half a day away from the school. From an urban perspective, a nature sense ground can be used to rebuild communities, create increased connections, to restore habitat, and to help mitigate climate change. So by now you must be wondering, how much does a nature sense ground cost? When we think of an average new playground, we're talking about $150,000 to $300,000 or more if they are using the newest play structures from the top companies. A nature sense ground can range between $200,000 and a few million, depending on the size and details. This playground here cost $1 million 10 years ago, largely because it used large logs. And because these logs weren't cedar, they rotted out only after 7 years, were hazardous, and had to be taken away. If you put in living plants, they can last several lifetimes, as successive generations can learn loving stewardship practices to help the plants go on and on. So currently, funds for new playgrounds are usually raised by parent-teacher committees, student fundraisers, parents donating, and everybody is often chipping in to increase the value of the schoolyard for play, exercise, outdoor fun, and learning. School grounds cumulatively represent tens of thousands of acres of very little more than lawn grass. When we take out a small chunk like 5,000 square feet, then we can increase biodiversity by 3,000%. We're mitigating climate change, creating right outside the door outdoor classrooms, and the possibilities are really endless. It's actually an incredible value for the money.
That opens here. Look, are you ready? Watch how well it flies. Oh, you got it. Look at these milkweed seeds. They want to travel. Let me find another one. They want to travel. Some of them got stuck in the meadow, but that might be a good place for them to grow. They really know how to fly.
I have been an educator for 30 years, and nature and getting kids outside in nature has always been really important to me. It's been important to me in my life, and I've seen how much it helps children to have easy access to nature, or to have educators that are willing to take kids outside as much as possible. It helps their overall well-being and their ability to focus when they are in the classroom. And it grounds all of us in a more centered space to be able to work together. Watching this project unfold has been transformative for all of us. Having Ben come into this space and create the physical space for us to do this work just right outside our door has been incredible. And you know, we've always been a school that's taken kids on field trips, and we take them on the subway to get to ravines and have access to that nature experiences out there. But to be able to just walk outside your door and enter a space where you immediately feel better, where you have an immediate connection to plants and creatures that are coming to live there, and can develop a relationship with them and watch them change over time, and notice small details about them, and feel a sense of responsibility for caring for them, but also a sense of gratitude for what they're bringing to our lives. That has been transformative for all of us.
Yeah, before this was just a plain space that was just wood chips and sand and overgrown weeds, and we knew we wanted to use it for something, but we didn't know what. And so when we reached out to Ben Porchuk, he helped us to create this amazing space where now we have children who can come out, and I actually worked with the students coming out every single day for an entire year. And every day we'd come out here without a strategy or a plan, and something would be discovered. Some relationship between animals, plants, insects, some revelation of the cycles and what's happening at certain times of year. And having water also made it such a rich space, because water freezes, unfreezes, melts, thaws, reflects the sky. And so it's such a rich space. We take students of all ages from 3 to 12. And anytime we come out here, they for one thing, they love to engage in it, but they also love to just sit quietly in it. And there's always something new to explore and discover. Yes, that is an amazing design feature that at the same time as we were modifying the outside, it would change the inside. And so even when I'm also a teacher librarian, and when I'm bringing students from one area of the school to another, we always stop. And we found out there's a squirrel hole in the brick wall over there. And we can notice that and see it from inside, and we can see what's happening outside. We can notice some of the leaves that are up close against the wall and how they're changing. So it also transforms the inside. So another thing that we've noticed is that the students develop a relationship to this place and the plants in this space. And one of our goals is that they understand the land that they're on and the land that they're a part of, the land that they're engaged in, and develop a relationship with it over their years at the school. And so having a finite number of plants in this space means that they can start to learn them, and they can start understanding them, and they can start predicting and knowing what's going to happen. For example, we saw a mourning cloak butterfly fly by 1 week, 1 year. The next year, almost to the same day, a mourning cloak butterfly flew by. And so just this understanding of the beings that we share this space with is so amplified in this space. So having features and elements that bring even more animals to this space make it even a richer space for the students, because it's fine to see birds from far away, but to have them up close with a feeder or with the water, this shallow end is where all the birds love to have their baths. And so having that opportunity to watch birds bathing themselves, not just flying by, is a completely different experience. The other thing that we've done, there have been fish in the pond and tadpoles in the pond, and it changes the relationship that the students have to that water, because otherwise a water feature can be something you just throw things into. You just see what happens when you throw something into it. But by honoring the lives that are in there and being able to understand that, it makes a huge difference in their relationship to the water. I'd say that being in the outdoor world changes the way that we all engage. And so by not having echoing noises indoors, by having the actual water play, the sand play that they're doing, that they would be doing in a kindergarten classroom anyways, we would be bringing so many elements of outside in for them to engage with in a very restricted way. But here, it's in the nature. So they are playing and mucking about in the most natural way. And those are the ways that we learn about the world, our relationship to the world, our place in the world, and also our role as caretakers in this world too.
Originally, before the state that you saw it in, there were some plans. The idea was to sort of transform it into a European-looking garden with some trees and some wooden benches, perhaps a fountain, and we did not have the funds to do that. And now I say, thank goodness. We didn't know any better at that time. But what we knew we wanted was a space where the children could come out and be connected with nature. But we couldn't imagine that that would actually be happening right on our own property. We had a slither of land here. And so it was through really thinking as a staff, what were our needs? We knew that we wanted sort of a sensory experience for the children, where they were connecting not just by sight, but also by feel. So what would the ground feel like if you were to walk on it barefoot, for example? What would how would the plantings be different to touch and smell, and perhaps even taste in some cases? And so, not knowing what we didn't know at the time, and we entered into a beautiful relationship with you, Ben, and started to explore what the possibilities were. And we've learned our lesson that when you want something, you need to work with the right people. And so, Ben, you gave us a new vocabulary, a description of how we could have different zones after studying the way the light hit this space. And the children contributed some data, if I recall correctly, in terms of where the light was at different times of the day, during different times of the year, because all we could do was look out at this, as you said, gravelly, sandy, abandoned area. And then you came and told us things that, again, we couldn't imagine, that there could be a water feature. That was terrifying to me, I have to say, as an administrator, thinking about the safety of children. But of course, at the same time, I'm learning about the idea of risky play and not underestimating what children are capable of doing, and how they can be really good judges of what they can and can't do. And so we entered into this with you, and it's just been incredible, an incredible experience. We have so many stories we can share where a child in senior kindergarten can reflect back on something that happened in this space 3 years ago when they were here starting in nursery as a 3-year-old. You're saying, do you remember when the tadpoles we first noticed the tadpoles? Do you remember this plant was a lot smaller? And so it's connected to a part of their thinking, the part of their brain that I think maybe is underdeveloped if you don't have that kind of relationship with nature. We, at the lab school, we talk about how learning needs to be not just minds on, but hands on, and now we say also hearts on. And so what we're noticing is that as the children are coming into the courtyard, they care for the plantings around them, the living creatures that they're noticing and are being attracted to this space that didn't attract anything earlier. And there is now a deep relationship. I think the other day they were collecting seeds, and some of the children made the observation after they had brought the seeds to a gathering that they needed to return the seeds to where they found them because they needed to go back home, and that would be the best spot for them to flourish because that's where the seed came from. And so what a deep understanding and a deep connection that the children have now thanks to that. We know that one of our goals as a school is to ensure that children graduate from grade 6 with an understanding that the decisions they make impact the environment and how their environment impacts them. And that relationship, that consciousness can only happen if there is a relationship, an authentic relationship, not something you get from a video, from a website, or from a book, but from an actual physical relationship with the environment.
I then asked Richard, how was the buy-in obtained from the teachers, the other administrators, and the land managers at the JICS Lab School?
I would say that, like most projects, in terms of the faculty, the staff, there were those that were deeply interested, those that were intrigued, and those that, this wasn't necessarily on the forefront. I would say that everyone has been transformed, that they see, whether they're noticing it through the eyes of the children in their classroom, or they themselves are connecting to nature in a way that maybe they never did or haven't done for a long time, or they see the value of it being in their workplace, a place that they can get away and reconnect when they need that. They need their soul to sing again. They need to be reconnected with the land and the environment. In terms of the staff beyond the faculty, I would say, again, there was that diversity. There were those that were thinking this was very progressive and forward thinking. And the other extreme, there were those that were terrified and said we couldn't do it. That to have a water feature, to be attracting wildlife, we actually had to edit out the word snake habitat in our proposal because that made many people terrified. Having young children with some of these features was not necessarily what the people who are worried about things like safety and maybe laws don't like to confront. But we again knew that we needed to push the envelope. Of course, we're always interested in children's safety, and everything here is incredibly secure and safe. But we also knew that we needed to have elements where children could be hiding, elements where children could be, tucking underneath, where they could really test out their sort of interest, their curiosity, and explore. And so we've been learning along with the children how to use the space. They are our teachers, and they're giving us, in a way, permission to explore in new ways. There is a pathway. The children don't always abide by the pathway. And that, again, is actually helpful to us because we might know what the finish line is, what the big ideas are that we want children to achieve, but we don't always know, or we shouldn't, or it's impossible for us to know all the paths to get to that deep understanding. And so it's about following, literally and figuratively, the lead of the children in terms of how to get to that deeper understanding.
I then asked Richard how science and magic intersect as staff and faculty conduct their research at this institution.
We had a student volunteer who was guiding a group of visitors. And the idea that we are a lab school, that I heard the child say, trust me, there are no mazes or spinning wheels here at the school. Because, this concept of a laboratory school is a bit unusual. And what attracted me, and I would say the faculty here, is exactly what you said. This is a place that absolutely values things that laboratories do, which is about observation, learning, going deeply into something and exploring new things. And it is absolutely about magic. We feel a responsibility here to support public school education by doing things that may not come as easily in the public school world. We have an incredible privilege to be able to explore things, always with the goal that public schools, public school teachers, public school systems and boards can come and be inspired and recognize we can do that too, and we can do it just as well, if not better. So the idea here is that as a laboratory, and we are, as you said, inviting many laboratory schools around the world, even to help them, we become inspired by their work, and we hope to inspire them to show that in a downtown school, we can really transform a tiny space to have transformative impact on our school population. And only imagine what this could do in another school setting, in another public school. It really is, it's a privilege to explore this magical world. It's a privilege for us and a responsibility for us to be have one foot in a way in the public school reality and another foot in the I wonder what could be. Let's imagine what this would look like. And as a former public school teacher, I know how difficult things can be, the tensions that teachers face, even simply going on a field trip. If I remember correctly, there were a 4-page form that I needed to fill out in order to bring children outside. So many things that prevent us from, and they're all coming from a good place. It's all about ensuring children's safety. It's about ensuring children's learning. But sometimes the systems that are in place actually are doing the opposite. They're preventing children from actually learning and experiencing that magic that transforms them into a certain kind of individual. And so again, not only do we invite lab schools at the conference that's happening this spring, but we invite every day. We have visitors coming to, again, give them permission to explore the magic that is possible in all settings.
Great, wonderful. So I'll put you on the spot, and if you can try to answer this succinctly, say we're 5 years ahead right now, and we had a number of schools across, say, Southern Ontario, because that's where we are. What would be kind of the top 3 criteria that you would say would be important if someone was to embrace this at their school site?
Yeah. One is you need to begin, it's a process. And that process begins with identifying what your wants are, what your needs are, and going beyond too, doing some research, finding out what other options, what are the options out there, going to visit places and collecting that data so that you have a sense of what you're hoping to do. 2 is not being limited by just what you know, but working with professionals like you, Ben, to help put our ideas and our wonderings down into something that's possible. And then I think and creating this with the children, as you did, with the children and the staff, so that there's an investment with the current population at the school. But that leads us to the third and I think most crucial thing. The children who helped build this, some of them have graduated and gone to other settings and brought their love and their relationship with them. You must ensure that there is a continuous relationship being built by the community. And it doesn't lie on the responsibility of 1 or 2 people who may end up moving on to another setting, retiring, that the place that is developed becomes an integral part of the philosophy of the school, so that anybody who enters into the school recognizes that this is how we teach here. This is how we learn here. This is being a part of this is how we live at this school. And that will ensure that the space that is created continues to thrive and evolve, because some plants are going to overtake other plants. And we want to make sure that just as the school has a life, that this is part of the life of the school as well.
Oh wow, that is so amazing.
Okay,
this has been...
big hug. You're the best.
God,
I don't know where that came from, but it was this.
This is a rock that marks the bloodroot, which we're about to plant with James. And the flower has kind of faded because this little rock identifier is old. But it'll still tell us what it is, and then we can look up pictures in the winter time and know that it's there in the winter and that it'll come back in spring.